I was 6 hours into a double shift when the room decided I didn't exist. The Riverside Grand Hotel had turned its ballroom into a chandelier you could walk inside. Gold light. Silver flatware. Laughter that didn't have to pay rent. I moved between tables like steam, there then gone, refilling flutes, clearing plates, counting tips in my head the way other people count blessings. My name is Lena Harper. I'm 22. I believe in clean collars, sturdy shoes, and the quiet skill of not dropping anything fragile. Invisible people keep rooms from falling apart. Tonight, the room forgot that. Table 7 needs more champagne, my manager hissed, snapping his fingers without looking up. I nodded. He didn't need my voice. He needed my hands. Table 7 was a lesson in breathing with your teeth together. 5 men in tuxedos who'd found the bar early and never found their way back. Name badges that opened elevators without buttons. One badge read Ethan Marlowe. Handsome. Loud. The grin of a person who mistakes applause for oxygen. Thought we'd die of thirst, he drawled while I set the silver tray down. His friends laughed like they had rehearsed it. My apologies, sir, I said. Neutral tone. Shoulders square. Wrist steady. I poured. The bottle ran dry. I should have walked away. I should have. Wait, Ethan stood. A wobble in his balance. A glint in his eyes that said, let's make a moment. His volume found the ceiling. I have a question, he announced. When you go home tonight, do you tell him about us? About this? His hand swept the room. Does it bother you? Serving rich people. Knowing it's never going to be you. Sir, I said, have a good evening. I turned. Hey, I'm talking to you. 3 seconds. That's all it was. 3 seconds that stretched into something I will remember with the clarity pain always brings. He grabbed a water glass full of cola. 2 steps. A grin. And then he poured. Cold. Shockingly cold. It ran down my hairline into my collar, down my back like a winter line drawn with a ruler. Ice cubes tapped my shoulder and slipped to the marble. The ballroom sound collapsed. A woman gasped. A fork clinked against porcelain like a tiny bell. I did not move. When you're small and the world is loud, stillness is a shield. His friends howled. One filmed phone held high and hungry. Did you get it? Someone wheezed. Send it to the chat. What is going on here? My manager appeared. Flushed and already calculating the tip he didn't want to lose. She was rude, Ethan said. Teaching manners. The manager grabbed my elbow. I am so sorry, Mr. Marlowe. Lena, break room. Now. I didn't. Now, he repeated, pleading with me to accept the fiction because the fiction kept the doors open. I walked. Shoes squeaked. Soda dripped from my bangs into my eyelashes. People looked away in the practiced rhythm of those who will not get involved. I could feel their silence like a second pour inside my chest. I could feel a camera on my back. In the staff bathroom, I locked the door. The light buzzed in that cheap, tired way that makes everything look like evidence. Mascara revered down. Collar stained brown. Breath shallow, as if oxygen had to pass through shame to reach me. I did not cry. Crying is a tax grief charges when you have time. I had minutes. My phone buzzed. You okay? Need a ride? I typed fine. Home after midnight. A lie that fit. I changed into the spare uniform I keep folded in my locker like a little plan B. Marco from the kitchen knocked once and slid a towel under the door without saying a word. He has the kind of eyes that refuse to learn indifference. I saw, he whispered. I'm sorry. On the staff TV above the lockers, a morning show replayed last week's promises with closed captions. We support workers. We support kindness. We support everything that can be said without being done. I went back to the floor. Table 7 had become a painting pretending to be a table again. I poured coffee at table 9 where a nurse in scrubs sat beside a donor who wanted to be seen caring. She squeezed my hand. I didn't know what to do with that kindness, so I nodded and carried it like a saucer. At 11:58 p.m., The band played too bright for a tired night. At 12:10 I counted credit card slips and cash, the arithmetic of getting by. The bathroom mirror had dried to a shadow of brown at my collarbone. On the subway, my reflection looked like a person who had walked through rain no one else could see. Night turned the train windows into a film. I could watch myself. I could rehearse the story I would not tell. What I didn't know not then was that Marco had filmed those 3 seconds. Not to sell. Not to trend. To keep the truth from being erased by the version with better PR. He sent the video to a private inbox with a subject line that said nothing and meant everything. At 6:15 a.m., a man who could buy 3 blocks with a phone call would watch those 3 seconds and become a different kind of rich. His name is Elon Vale. People call him a billionaire. I will learn to call him something else, a builder. The kind who can stand on a ruined moment and see a room that doesn't collapse. He was not at table 7. He does not throw drinks, but he understands the cost of silence sold as strategy. By sunrise, the clip reached a lawyer's assistant. At 8:03, a blog with a name you forget posted those 3 seconds. At 8:06, 1,000 hearts broke in the same shape. At 9:12, someone in a glass office typed contain the narrative as if stories can be kept in boxes. At 10 o'clock, a press team drafted a statement. It called me unprofessional. It used regret and incident and none of the words that mean we did this. Before noon, my manager pulled me aside. Verbal warning, he said, smoothing a tie that didn't need smoothing. Be grateful. The room tilted. Somewhere, a dishwasher rattled. Somewhere, a bell rang for an order that would arrive cold. Somewhere, a version of me nodded and swallowed and thanked the man who would save her job by shrinking her dignity. But the city had already picked a side. Not people or profit. Proof. By midday, 3 calls were made from a quiet office that does not advertise its phone number. Not to threaten. To document. To ask for the raw file, the timestamp, the chain of custody. Evidence, not adjectives. That phrase will become the backbone of what happens next. At 4:11 a.m. The next day, I will learn how quickly the internet can rehearse cruelty. At 4:13, I will also learn how quickly a person with power can decide to spend it differently. But in that bathroom with the humming light and the cheap soap, I didn't know any of it. I only knew the way cold feels when it decides to live where your voice should be. I only knew that humiliation arrives, brings a chair, and sits down. I only knew this, tomorrow I would still go to work. Invisible people don't get to take days off from holding the room together. I did not go looking for a billionaire. I went looking for a way to stand up. And the city, because of a 3-second pour and a man named Elon Vale who prefers receipts over revenge, was about to show me one. Morning came like fluorescent light, too bright, too honest. At 6:02 a.m., the city smelled like bread trucks and wet concrete. I stood at my sink rinsing last night's soda from my hair with cold water because the hot hadn't remembered its job. I brewed the cheap coffee that pretends to be courage. I put on a clean blouse and the old spine I keep for days when apology is a costume people wear to avoid consequence. My phone lit up. News alerts stacked like dominoes. Riverside incident sparks outrage. Viral clip. Waitress doused at gala. Marlowe Group statement. Employee behaved unprofessionally. Unprofessional. The word slid under my skin with the precision of a paper cut. I didn't touch the screen. I didn't have to. The headline kept crawling under everything: breakfast, breath, the part of me that still wants to be believed without proof. At 7:10 a.m., I walked to the train. Brooklyn yawned. The bodega cat notarized the morning with a blink. On the platform, a teenager watched the caption clip and shook his head. A mother tugged her child off the yellow line with one hand and texted with the other. Life has room for 1,000 small disasters, and still the train is late. The hotel called me in early. We need to address professionalism, my manager said, smoothing a tie that didn't need smoothing. He herded me into the staff corridor that smells like bleach and gratitude. We've had complaints, he said. Your reaction created a scene. My reaction? I repeated. It tasted burned. He lifted both hands, palms out, the international sign for don't make this worse for me. The client is important. We're issuing a verbal warning. Be grateful, Lena. Grateful. Somewhere a dishwasher rattled. Somewhere an entree died under a heat lamp. Somewhere a smaller version of me nodded to keep her job. That version didn't show up today. I'll finish my shift, I said. Then I'm going home. He exhaled, relief at any sentence that sounded like compliance. Thank you. At 9:03 a.m., the Marlowe Group posted their statement. We regret the unfortunate incident. Preliminary investigation suggests the employee behaved unprofessionally. The syntax carried a familiar disease. Regret without subject. Investigation without verbs. Employee instead of my name. Distance where truth should be. At 9:15, the kitchen TV flickered to a pundit with a practiced frown. He said context and optics and learning moment as if humiliation were a workshop. Marco muted the screen and slid me a glass of water like a bartender in an old movie. You don't have to stay, he said. I can stand and I can carry, I said. That's what I've got. He nodded. Then I'll lift the hot pans when your hands say enough. By noon, the clip had circled the city and returned with teeth. Comments crawled under my skin and tried to make a nest. Opportunist. Staged. Just a server. People who have never bussed a table always know how to fix a life. At 12:40 p.m. the lunch rush ebbed. The staff huddled at a corner table like a lifeboat. Someone joked about hazard pay for soda rain. Someone left a slice of leftover cake like a prayer you can chew. My phone buzzed across the table. Unknown number. A photo. My employment contract clauses highlighted like landmines. Overtime policy, grievance procedure, arbitration. Another buzz. The clip paused at the wide-eyed second before the pour. Under it, clean, unhurried text. Meet me. Or meet the internet tomorrow. I didn't need the initials. The arrogance had a watermark. I stepped into the service corridor where light goes to confess. I called the number back. A voice answered that sounded like a smile without warmth. 50,000, he said, bored already. You resign. I delete. Cheap price for a reputation. How many others? I asked. How many women did you turn into a joke? He laughed. A sound that slid off tile. You think you're special? I monetized desperation. There's always a buyer. I ended the call. My hands shook. The plates didn't. That felt unfair. 2 minutes later, the phone rang again. Blocked. I let it go to voicemail. Then another number. I answered on the third ring. MS. Harper. A steady baritone. No accent in particular. A voice that knows how to be trusted without asking to be liked. This is Elon Vale. I did not breathe for a beat. You think you know a billionaire's voice because you've heard them on panels. You don't. They sound different when they're not performing. I've seen the footage, he said. I also saw the statement that blamed you. That will not stand. Are you calling to buy the video? I asked. Pain makes you say sharp things. No, he said. I'm calling to offer you choices. My team has the chain of custody, the original file. We can publish the receipts. We can also connect you with counsel who won't turn your life into a headline. I'd like to meet. Your terms. Your timeline. I swallowed. Your terms is a language I don't hear often. Why? I asked. Because silence taught my industry the wrong lessons, he said simply. Because this is bigger than a ballroom. Because I prefer proof to rumor. And because you deserve help without a price tag. Fear tried to bargain. Pride tried to bargain. Hope didn't. It just waited. Not at the hotel, I said. Agreed, he answered. There's a small conference space on with. 4 o'clock. There will be 2 people from my side. Eva from communications and Mark from security. No cameras. No NDs. Bring whatever you need. If you record, good. If you walk out, also good. And if I don't come? I asked. Then we publish evidence without you, he said. But I'd rather do the right thing with you. At 2:12 p.m., I left the hotel early. No one stopped me. A rumor can clear a path like a siren. I went home and changed into truth-colored clothes. Dark jeans, clean shirt, jacket with deep pockets. I slipped a cheap recording pin into the seam. Habit from a life where people talk to you like you're furniture until they need you to be a wall. On the way to With, the city performed its usual apology. The bakery smell, the sun rehearsing summer, kids inventing games with sticks and a crack in the sidewalk. I almost forgave it. The lobby at the rented conference suite smelled like lemon cleaner and meetings that fail. The receptionist looked up like she could sense the kind of day I was carrying. 12th floor, she said gently. The room was small, square, neutral. 2 chairs on one side, 2 on the other. The top of a city peeking through a window that had learned to be polite. Mark stood when I entered, mid-40s, calm posture. Hands you trust with a heavy box or a heavy moment. Eva nodded, teal blazer, a notebook, eyes that absorb storms and turn them into plans. Elon arrived without an entourage. No watch demanding attention. No cologne trying to sell a mood. He closed the door himself. He didn't offer a hand. He offered a seat. "Ms. Harper," he said. "Thank you for coming." "This buys you nothing," I said. "It shouldn't," he answered. We sat. I kept my bag on my lap like a seatbelt. "Here's what I know," he began, voice even. "The video is genuine. We have the metadata. Your manager's email about a verbal warning is archived. The Marlowe statement is designed to move search results, not truth. And as of noon, someone using a paid relay started texting you." He slid a paper across the table. A name. A carrier. A screenshot of the same message I'd received. "Extortion," he said. "Soft kind. Still illegal. What do you want from me?" I asked. "To decide," he said. "We can go to law enforcement today with you or without you. We can publish the receipts and let daylight work. We can also build structural fixes so no one has to carry this alone again. But you go first. Your voice sets the pace." "Why you?" I asked. "Why not a union or a nonprofit or just me and a good lawyer?" "Because I can make phones pick up on the first ring," he said, not bragging. "Because I can buy time. Because I owe the city better than silence. And because if my name buys the room, I intend to hold the door open and then get out of the way." The recording pen in my pocket hummed like a small conscience. I breathed. The shape of pain changed angles but did not disappear. "Okay," I said. "2 conditions." He nodded. "Name them." 1. No adjectives. Publish evidence, not feelings. 2. If you talk about me, use my name. I am not the employee in anybody's narrative. "Deal," he said. Eva slid a simple document across the table. 1 page. Permission to share the clip as is. Permission to attach the chain of custody. Permission to redact my address and my mother's name. I read it. Plain English. The kind of paper that respects you. I signed. Mark's radio crackled in his pocket. He excused himself. When he came back, his eyes were thunder and his jaw was sunny. I could not tell which weather I preferred. "That was Vice," he said. "They have a source inside Marlowe. Ethan's team is trying to shop a counterclip from 3 months ago. Someone else he humiliated at a private event. The price is double if we agree to run it first." I tasted battery acid. "They collect women like trophies," I said, and my voice did not shake. Elon's hands were quiet on the table. "We're done negotiating with cruelty," he said. "Mark." "Warrant request is drafted," Mark answered. "We loop the DA now. You ready to be on record, Lena?" I swallowed. A yes is heavier when it's true. "Yes." We walked 2 blocks to a precinct that still runs on fluorescent light and stubbornness. The detective on duty looked like overtime wears his shoes. He took our statements. He copied my phone. He treated me like a person who had done enough to be believed. An hour later, in a rented room on the 12th floor smelling of lemon cleaner and endings, the door opened on 2 plainclothes agents and a silver-haired attorney with a briefcase that didn't sag. "Mr. Marlowe," The lead said into a different room hours away, camera ready. We have questions about extortion, assault, and laundering through charity fronts. By evening, the press did what the press does. Screamed, split, doubted, declared. I lasted 1,000 comments before the words turned to static. I closed the apps. I opened my window. October climbed in and cooled my anger without extinguishing it. My phone buzzed one last time before midnight. A text from an unknown number that somehow felt different. You don't know me. I was a server at a Marlowe event last spring. Your video made my mother call me and say, "I'm sorry I told you to be quiet. Thank you." I put the phone face down. I watched the ceiling learn darkness again. Pain didn't leave. It rearranged furniture. In the quiet between midnight and morning, I wrote a sentence in my notebook. Return what was stolen. Keep what cannot be bought. It would not fix the world. It would keep me honest while we tried. Tomorrow hope would ask for a plan. Tonight, I let the city breathe for me. Morning tasted like steel and oranges. Steel from the subway poles we held to keep from falling. Orange from the sun finally remembering us. I didn't start with a press conference. I started with a whiteboard. Elon called at 8. His voice was steady, stripped of performance. I have a room. I have an hour. I have people who can listen. The room was above a loading dock in a brick building that had seen too many winters and refused to complain. The table was scarred. The coffee was honest. Eva set out markers. Mark propped the door. Elon stood back and let the air belong to me. What fixes what hurt you? He asked. I wrote in big block letters so my hands would have a job. A hotline answered by people who know what a double shift feels like. Legal clinics on Sundays with childcare and coffee. A fund that pays rent when overtime vanishes. A rule that tips cannot become fees. A rule that cameras cannot become weapons. Elon added one line without changing my words. Nothing with my name, he said. This belongs to the people who use it. People will call it PR, I warned. Let them, he said. We're building plumbing. PR is flowers. We named it the Doorframe Fund. A simple promise. If your month breaks, we hold the hinge. By noon, Eva had drawn a launch plan that fit on one page. No adjectives. No stage. One camera for accessibility. No VIP rope. Direct grants. Fast verification by managers and coworkers, not algorithms. Sunday clinics with rotating attorneys who remember they're human. Mark rolled in a risk plan that smelled like copier ink and experience. If anyone tries a stunt, he said, we finish sentences, then we leave. If someone needs a wall, we become the wall. We rehearsed in the warehouse. The podium was a rolling tool chest with a tablecloth. A line cook brought empanadas. The dishwasher who works 3 jobs nodded once at me like a blessing you have to be careful not to drop. What if I shake? I asked. Then you shake, Elon said. Truth looks good, even when it trembles. We launched the next afternoon at Mickey's, the diner on the corner where the neon flickers and the owner calls everyone kid, no matter how old their bones sound. We didn't invite anchors. We invited neighbors, housekeepers, baristas, a nurse from the night shift who squeezed my hand and reset my spine. Mark's team pretended to be furniture. Eva taped the doorframe phone number to the pie case with blue painter's tape, because permanence is a promise you earn, not a sticker you slap. I took the mic. It was not elegant. It was clean. My name is Lena Harper, I said. I serve in rooms that forget who cooks. Last week a man poured a drink on my head for applause. He has consequences now. But consequences are not the same as repair. I told them the plan in sentences that fit in any mouth on a tired day. A hotline staffed by people who have smelled bleach at 3 a.m. Grants that hit bank accounts within 24 hours. Lawyers who know the difference between a policy and a threat. A rule that if you call us, you are believed first. A rule that if your boss retaliates, we show up together. We are not asking for donations today, I added. We're asking for names. If you are one broken shift away from moving, write your number on this list. If you are a manager who wants to clean a policy, put your number under theirs. If you are a landlord who prefers rent paid on time to pride paid never, we'll call you later. A busboy clapped once. Then twice. The sound spread like a smart rumor. A local reporter in a thrifted blazer raised a hand. Why isn't Elon Vale at the mic? Because this isn't his story, I said. He built the table. We said it. A different voice cautious. Is this about revenge? This is about plumbing, I said. Fix the pipes, and the ceiling stops falling on the same heads. People lined up. A housekeeper with a limp wrote carefully. A bartender with a baby on her hip mouthed thank you. A hotel manager put his card in a jar labeled call me if kindness becomes against policy. At the back, a man hovered near the coffee station. Mid-50s. Suit a little wrong for his posture. Camera shy. He listened. When the line thinned, he approached, hat in hand without the hat. I'm Richard Warden, he said. The room cooled 1 degree. May I speak? Mark watched the door without blinking. Eva watched me. I nodded. He held the mic like it could bite. I came to listen, he said. And to say 3 words that are late and inadequate. I am sorry. He swallowed. Our company will fund the doorframe fund without branding it. We will change our policies before you ask. We will publish receipts. And he paused. I will apologize to Ms. Harper again in the room where I failed her. On camera. With no but. Silence has flavors. This one tasted like rain after a dry month. Mr. Warden, I said, taking the mic back. Thank you. But this fund does not belong to you. You can help build. You cannot own. He nodded. Good. We closed the box at exactly 1 hour. Elon believes in stopping before the room gets tired of being good. Mark walked the sidewalk once, shoulders easy. Eva emailed the hotline schedule to a list that started at 12 names and ended at 87. The owner of Mickey's rang a small bell by the register and said, for kept promises. And everyone smiled like their face remembered how. By dusk, the clip from the diner was everywhere. Not the humiliation one. The one with a pie case and a jar and me saying plumbing. People argued about the metaphor. Plumbers loved it. Philosophers did not. That's fine. Hope doesn't need a perfect analogy. It needs a phone number that picks up. Back at the warehouse, we turned hope into a checklist. We taped it to the wall where ambition can't pretend it didn't see. Hotline live by Friday. Rent grants dispersed within 24 hours. HR templates translated into Spanish, Vietnamese, Arabic. Partner clinics scheduled 2 Sundays a month. 1 quiet win a day. No exceptions. Publish receipts. Always. Elon signed his name under publish receipts like a vow. If we fail, he said, we fail out loud and fix it fast. On my walk home, the city looked different in the dark. Not softer. Truhe. The bodega cat blinked a benediction. The driver at the light let 3 people cross without honking. The sky leaned down and wore the streetlights like earrings. I wrote 1 more sentence in my notebook before sleep found me. Hope is not fireworks. Hope is a schedule. Put it on the calendar. Then show up. We slid the interrupted hours sheet across the table. Duplicated approvals. Escalations with no owner. Compliance pop-ups that bragged about the worst timing. 41 hours a week reclaimed when fixed. The CFO stared at the cell, then went quiet for 10 seconds, the fiscal version of confession. We wrote a rule on the whiteboard and underlined it twice. If a control interrupts more work than it protects, fix the control, not the person. Audit nodded. HR exhaled. Operations asked for a pilot. We ran one. Cycle time went down. Errors stayed down. Expand, the CFO said, almost softly, as if relief itself had a P&L. Justice did not stay in one building. It walked into our supply lines. Rumors circled 2 overseas vendors, training centers that sounded like help and behaved like pressure. Elon refused glossy assurances. He asked for translators chosen by workers, not managers. We flew Luz, Dow, and Armin, community interpreters with spines of steel and notebooks full of names. They met people in break rooms that smelled like garlic and steam, in shuttle vans at dawn, under stairwells where truth hides when it's afraid. Their report did not read like marketing. It read like work. What we saw. Cameras pointed at beds. Fines called reminders. Overtime spikes caused by flooded bus routes, not orders. What it costs. Sleep, wages, dignity. What we will change. Buses added. Cameras removed. Supervisors retrained. By when? Real dates. Who is responsible? Real names. We ended 2 contracts. Funded 3 fixes. Published the receipts in both languages. No victory lap. Just a line at the bottom. This is what accountability looks like on paper. Inside our walls, we harden the soft things and soften the hard things. Grace bands at turnstiles became policy. Safe leave stayed 1 page. Stars fund turned from a favor into a budget line. We added kept promises to the top of the dashboard. Of the commitments we made this quarter, how many did we keep on time in full without making anyone beg? Analysts tried to laugh until the number refused to break. Correlated with retention, safety, cycle time, quality, and yes, profit. We formalized a habit that had been saving us quietly. The dignity ledger inside doorframe and partner sites. Every rule bent for mercy with the reason why. Once a month we reviewed the log and rewrote the rule instead of punishing the bending. A bathroom key on a chain became a door that opened. A voucher that died at 6 p.m. Learned to breathe at midnight. A form that demanded a middle name learned some cultures don't use one. Complaints fell. Not because people stopped hurting, because they were heard before hurt turned into rage. We built the auditor's circle for vendors. Third-party monitors nominated by workers, rotating seats, rotating languages, unannounced rounds. We tied payment to change, not promises. We rewired onboarding with a bench test. Does your policy survive a bad day? Can a worker refuse and still keep their job? Show us 3 times you chose people over deadlines. Give us numbers and phone calls we can verify without you listening. We tested our own house too. A whisper landed in the whisper inbox. A junior manager pressuring temps to cover 2 roles without logging hours. Budgets are brittle, he called it. We called it theft. HR moved. Legal moved. The manager left with a box. Firmly, without humiliation. Consequence can be human. The markets twitched. The board watched. Elon sent the only email that mattered. Hold course. Publish updates. Put people first. We don't outsource our spine. 2 days later, a letter arrived on cheap paper. No return address. English built like a bridge with borrowed planks. We heard what you said. You didn't forget. They took the cameras out of our rooms today. Laughing is no longer a fine. They added a bus. We got home before the street turned dangerous. Keep going. Pre-append it to the signals board under a heading we started using that day. Proof of breath. Around it, staff taped their own small notes from the field. A glove that no longer tore. A schedule that finally matched a bus. A diaper receipt paid with a bridge fund that took 1 signature and 0 shame. Then came the public part most companies handle with driftwood and prayer. Disclosure. We filed a plain English update, dates, names masked for safety, actions taken, and a promise to publish again in 30 days even if the news wasn't flattering. We added a second metric to the top line where no one in a suit could pretend not to see it. Kept promises, external. Of the commitments we made to workers in our supply chain this quarter, how many did we keep on time in full without making anyone beg? The number wasn't perfect. Neither were we. But it moved the right way. Direction is how you measure courage. At the quarterly hearing, a director asked the predictable question. How do we know this compassion isn't eroding shareholder value? The CFO, precise, newly converted by evidence, clicked to a chart with 3 clean lines. Retention, rework, recall. All improved. He added a 4th. Regulatory risk. Down. He didn't plead. He presented. It's hard to argue with a floor that keeps refusing to crack. Justice also learned to speak in rooms that once ignored my voice. Elon did not perform repentance. He operationalized it. He showed them the leak timeline and remediation playbook, the supplier audit with worker-chosen translators, the cost of interrupted hours and the return on fixed controls, the doorframe rollout, calls answered, crises diverted, workers stabilized. You cannot put a multiple on relief, someone muttered. Then stop pretending fear is free, Elon answered, calm as cold water. They voted to expand. Not because the room grew kinder, because the math did. The last piece of justice was the part my mother taught me to name out loud. harm that hides in paperwork. We wrote a do not call the police one-pager for cases where help looks like a sandwich, not a siren. We created exit with dignity, a clause vendor workers could invoke if our decisions harmed them unfairly. Fast fixes, real money, no theater. We added Paper Sunday to our crisis manual. How to run the whole system on ink and shoe leather when the wires fail. We practiced it. Twice. Because stewardship isn't paranoia. It's duty. When we made these changes public, something unusual happened. The noise got quieter. The work got cleaner. The city blinked, then adjusted. Justice didn't trend. It looked like Elijah tilting a scanner so it stopped scolding. It looked like Mara at the front desk saying a name the way a person likes to hear it and watching shoulders drop 1 inch. It looked like Nurse Amara kneeling to cuff the dinosaur first so a child could breathe. On a Thursday, the CFO sent a note with a subject I never thought I'd see. Recommendation: expand kept promises and doorframe standards. No exclamation point. Just numbers aligned like geese, and a single sentence at the bottom. Turns out trust is cheaper than churn. I printed it and slid it under the sentence I wrote the day rumor tried to take my breath. Bring proof. Or bring silence. That night I walked to the bench by the river. The plaque wasn't there yet, but I could feel the words humming under the wood. For those who listen before they judge. My phone buzzed. A chart from Priya bending the right way. A photo from Nurse Amara. A child holding a sticker that read Brave Today. Then a single line from Elon. Publish the audit. All of it. Let the light do its work. Justice is not a gavel. It is a door held open long enough for truth to walk through. We held it. And the building learned how to breathe without lying to itself. Happiness did not arrive like fireworks. It arrived like a room that finally fit the truth. On a rainy Saturday, we opened our 6th doorframe clinic. The neighbors brought tamales and jasmine tea. Nurse Amara taped a paper sign to the door in 4 languages. We are open. You are safe. People came in softly, the way belief enters a body after a long winter. By noon, the waiting room sounded like relief. Not loud. Steady. Olive and Star, our 2 vans, purred on their routes. Apartments at dawn. Night markets at midnight. Motels that act like addresses when the world pretends it cannot find you. We stocked bandages, inhalers, prenatal vitamins, and tenderness. A father's child passed the cuff after the dinosaur did. Sometimes happiness is just a sticker that reads Brave Today, and a nurse who remembers to kneel. Inside Vale Tower, the air had changed. Turnstiles blinked green without scolding. Grace bands were no longer a pilot. Safe leave stayed 1 page. The Stars Fund became a budget line, not a favor. At the top of the dashboard sat a metric that once felt fragile and now behaved like steel. Kept promises. Of the commitments we made this quarter, how many did we keep on time in full without making anyone beg? Analysts tried to laugh. Then they ran correlations and stopped laughing. Retention. Safety. Cycle time. Quality. Profit. Everything bent the right way when kept promises lived at the top. Priya Das added a tiny icon to the line. A small open door. It should remember what it is for, she said. She was right. We built a listening lab in a forgotten room. 2 chairs. 1 hour. No minutes unless requested. A cleaner asked for a stool for a coworker's knee. A developer moved an error message earlier so it appears before you fill a form. A manager began every stand-up with, "What did we keep this week?" None of it trended. All of it made the day feel fair. Community taught us scale that loved being copied. Dow pitched night market health. Pop-ups behind factories with soup and string lights. We tried one. 200 people arrived with questions wrapped in shyness. We answered what we could and wrote the rest on a board titled Homework. We came back with solutions and more soup. Attendance doubled. Dignity often does when you feed it. Luz trained 2 cousins as translators and wrote a glossary of dignity. Why are you late? Became what help would make this easier. Explain became tell me in your words. HR printed it. For the first time, the handbook had a heartbeat. Armin sent a voice note after a storm. If we wire money, it buys little. If we wire chargers and lamps, it buys time. We shipped both. Photos came back like proof. Small lamps like stars, faces like dawn. At the river, A bench appeared with a plaque. For those who listen before they judge. People sit there and remember how to be gentle. Elijah from security left a folded verse under it. Rumor is afraid to take the stand. He pretended we did not know it was his. Elon changed in the ways that matter and in the ways that never trend. He waited in clinic lines like everyone else because everyone else is the point. He wrote 3-sentence thank you cards by hand. What he saw. Why it mattered. What it changed. On Sundays he made pancakes that no longer apologize for being imperfect. He would lift the plant I almost killed and say, "Still alive." We laughed. Survival is also a metric. One evening he placed a small box on the table between us. Thin silver. One word on the inner band, freedom. Freedom to walk, he said. Freedom to stay. I will never buy your time. I will ask to share your life. I said yes. Not because I was rescued, because I had been witnessed. We kept our rituals. Tuesdays for the listening lab. Thursdays for field rounds. 3 sentences for hard moments. You're right. You're safe. Here's what we do next. A door frame, we wrote the first kept promises report like a recipe card, plain and honest. Calls answered. Rent caught up. Schedules fixed. Overtime corrected. Retaliation prevented. We listed our misses too. 2 calls returned late. 1 landlord who doubled down before we reached him. A translation mistake that made a sentence colder than we meant. We fixed what we could. We published it anyway. Unreported failures ferment. Richard Valen, our CFO, stopped calling it soft. He sent a chart with totals aligned like geese and wrote, "Recommend expansion." Finance had learned the math of mercy. It was still math. At second shift, our night school lives began to stretch. A dishwasher taught intro circuits on Tuesdays. A nanny launched a daycare built around parents' real lives. A line cook who does calculus in his head tutored teenagers who saw a future that finally spoke their language. We hung 1 sentence on the wall in clean type. We believe there is no such thing as unskilled. The city noticed in sideways ways. A bakery posted, "Breaks our policy. Please be patient with our joy." A hotel turned the last stall in each restroom into a phone call stall with a shelf and a soft light. A warehouse replaced "no loitering" with "sit, breathe, water's inside." An electrician on our board cried when he saw that sign. He said it was dust. It was not. People still try to shrink our story to a headline that fits on a phone. Billionaire and poor girl. Wallet and rain. Rescue and romance. They missed the point. The power we built is not measured in shares. It is measured in promises kept. In policies that fit inside a mouth. In doors that open without making a person scan twice for permission and once for penance. If your night feels too large, hear this from a woman who once ate buses and borrowed sleep. You are not finished. Return what is not yours. Keep what is. Ask for a chair. Then pull another one beside it. Measure your day with 1 question. What did I keep? You will be surprised how much happiness fits inside that answer. On Sundays, pancakes. Elijah tilts the scanner so it never glares. Mara waves from the desk. Priya sends curves shaped like courage. Nurse Amara draws a smile on a bandage and the child believes her. Elon listens, and when people ask him for the secret to scale, he says, "Attention is the scarcest resource. Spend it where it multiplies." Then he proves it. He listens. This is not the ending. This is the part where the room breathes together. 6 clinics. 2 vans. A bench that keeps its quiet vow. A ring that says freedom in a voice only 2 people need to hear. A life you can keep. We are building it, 1 kept promise at a time. The city tested us on a Thursday. Subways slowed. Elevators sighed. Then the grid exhaled 1 long, tired breath and the skyline went dark. Not a flicker. A full-body hush. Somewhere, a siren remembered its job and cried into the quiet. I was at Site 3 with Nurse Amara, labeling the last box of donated inhalers. Lights blinked twice. Then the room lowered itself into dusk. The backup kicked in like a steady hand. Soft lamps, battery monitors, chargers stacked like patient bricks. The clinic took a breath and decided to stay open. Blackout, Amara said. Not alarm. Assessment. She rolled the blood pressure cart to the wall and clicked on a small lantern. We switched to night protocol. We wrote night protocol on a day when everything worked. People call that paranoia. I call it stewardship. I pulled the bright yellow binder from the shelf, the one that lives as paper because panic can't scroll. Step 1. Open the doors wider. Step 2. Turn the music off. Listen for fear. Step 3. Call the vans. Tell Olive and Star to carry power. We propped the doors with 2 waiting room chairs. People arrive the way water does when a pipe breaks. Not loud, relentless. A teenager clutching an insulin kit. A grandmother who needed her oxygen to keep humming. A father carrying a sleeping child who woke after one cough and then hit his face in the safer place. A shoulder. I radioed dispatch. Olive, Star, deploy. Carry power. Carry light. They didn't ask permission. Training is a kind of memory. The vans rolled up and unfurled long orange cords like gentle snakes. We plugged in concentrators. We set a charging table with a sign. Call your person. No questions asked. Across the river, Vale Tower blinked to its bones and then steadied on generators. But Elon didn't stay there. He came to Site 3 with a jacket he didn't need and the only message that matters in a night like this. I am here. Command lives where the people are, he told the team. The tower can wait. Clinics cannot. Inside, Priya Das unfolded a battered laptop with its own battery pack and drew a map on a single screen. High-rises with stuck elevators got 1 star. Buildings with elders got 2. She flagged meds that couldn't wait until morning and handed me a handwritten list. This is triage that doesn't panic. 10 minutes later, Richard Valen arrived. No entourage, just a tablet and worry he didn't pretend away. He looked at the room like a spreadsheet that had learned to breathe. What do you need me to count? He asked. Not money, I said. Minutes. He nodded and started counting what actually matters when power becomes rumor. Time to charge a phone. Time to refill a nebulizer. Time for a child's shoulders to drop 1 inch. Later he would publish a brief with a new line. Minutes returned. For now, he moved extension cords like a man who remembered being young and useful. We split the room into steady and shaky. Amara took steady. I took shaky. We posted a sheet at eye level in 3 languages, simple words. Tell us what hurts. Tell us who to call. Tell us what cannot wait. Our translators became anchors. Dow stood by the door with soup and a smile that told the truth. Luz floated between conversations and turned panic into sentences that fit inside a mouth. Armin walked the line with tape and wrote names on chargers so phones would return to the right hands. None of this would trend. All of it kept the room from cracking. On the hour, Elijah radioed from the tower lobby. He tilted the scanner toward the floor so no one felt judged by light. We're stable, he said. Elevators down. Stairs are tired but polite. He lowered his voice. 4 folks from the neighborhood are waiting by your door. They thought the clinic was employees only. It's for the city, I said. Send them. So they came. Strangers who have names now. A deli owner with a broken sandal and a joke that kept landing. A delivery driver who'd been outside too long. A quiet man who sat by the cords like he was guarding a river. I scanned the room the way my mother taught me to scan a hospital hallway. Look for the wrong color. In the corner, a woman sat too straight. Hands tight. Lips pale. I crouched. What do you need? She whispered. I need to leave. And I need to know I can come back. Safe leave lives for that sentence. 1 page. 1 signature. A quiet car. A quiet plan. Quiet promise. Policy became a hand on a door when danger showed up without knocking. Around 9, the city's big hospital called. Their triage had spilled into the parking lot. Do you have room? They asked. No, I said. But we have chairs. We staged a warm handoff we've practiced on Tuesdays. People arrived in pairs with a card that carried 3 facts. What brought them, what they needed to leave with, who loved them enough to wait outside. We assigned a person, not a leaflet. We called that person now. Near midnight, the internet tried to wake up with bad information. Priya caught it and shut it down with a single slide. We are open. Here's where. Here's when. Here's what we have. No adjectives. Just addresses. In the darkest hour, a little girl climbed onto the scale and called it a spaceship. We let her. We counted down from 5. We cheered when she returned to Earth. Her laugh retuned the room's heartbeat. At 1, Richard found me by the supply closet. Numbers were all over his face. Kept promises is trending, he said. He meant in the building. Slack channels, whiteboards, text threads that teach people what to do without a manager. It's keeping the floor steady. We wrote it for nights like this, I said. At 2, the vans finished their first battery cycle and hummed back to life. We swapped chords like a dance. Olive and Star became lanterns on wheels. Dow scribbled a wall list. People we still owe by sunrise. We closed no ticket that still had a human attached. Just before 3, a man came in carrying a cooler. Face gray with worry. Insulin, he said. It's warm. We turned our mini-fridge into a chapel and labeled each vial like a letter from far away. Elon moved through the room like a conductor who knows when to lower his hands. When people asked for him, he answered with 3 words, yes. Now. Thank you. He made calls to people who owed him favors and used none of his power to make them feel small. He refilled tea for a grandmother and did not post it on the internet. Dawn arrived on tiptoe. Neighborhoods blinked awake in shy sections. Someone clapped once. The room answered with breath and then a small cheer that didn't try to be bigger than it was. We logged the night the way we log everything. Minutes returned. Quiet escalations resolved. Helpfulness index with 5 faces in 1 question. Did someone make your day easier? The board filled with small circles. Data as a love letter written with a pen. By noon, Richard sent a note to the board with no adjectives and a single chart. Title: Cost of Kept Promises in a Blackout. The slope went down where cost should, up where relief should. He attached 1 line. Make night protocol standard. They voted yes without scheduling another meeting. Miracles are sometimes just people who stop arguing with reality. That evening we met at the river bench. The plaque caught a calm piece of sky. For those who listen before they judge. The city stretched itself and pretended it had always been this steady. Elon sat, elbows on knees, hands loose. We passed, he said. Not triumph. Inventory. We learned, I said. That's better than passing. He smiled the private smile he saves for sentences he wants to keep. What do we build next? Night protocol for neighbors, I said. Open source. Paper. A kit any block can run without waiting on someone important to notice. We'll fund it, he answered. We'll publish it. Our name on the last page in small print. We wrote it in a week. Simple. Legible. How to open your door wide without breaking. How to turn a van into hope. How to say you're safe without a speech. We included the soup recipe. Dow insisted. She's right about soup. 2 months later, a storm hit the south side. The lights went out. The kits came out. Phones charged. Oxygen hummed. We weren't there. That was the point. People ask what legacy looks like, expecting marble and glass and a wing named after a donor. I point to a laminated page on a community board. A van that hums like a lullaby. A whiteboard metric that refuses to lie. Kept promises. That is our statue. On Sunday we made pancakes. The stubborn plant refused to die. Elijah tilted the scanner. Priya sent a curve shaped like relief. Nurse Amara wrote brave today on a bandage. Elon turned the thin silver ring so the engraved word faced the light. Freedom. When the lights go out again, and they will, we will open the doors, roll the cords, count minutes, listen until fear remembers how to speak. And when the city breathes again, we will return to the small work that keeps it alive. A door that does not stick. A rule that fits in a mouth. A promise that stays kept when no one is watching. That is legacy. Not thunder. Not trend. A room that stays lit even when the power forgets how. Justice didn't arrive with sirens. It knocked at noon, asked for water, and opened a notebook. 3 weeks after the blackout, an innovation partner pitched a glittering deal, triple distribution for medical supplies and power packs, fast. The deck was pretty. The math too clean. The timeline impossible. Dust under these decimals, Priya Das said. We set our table, Richard Valen finance, legal, security, procurement, operations, and me for what slides miss. Elon sat quiet, power behaving. We want growth, Richard said. Not a headline we can't outlive. We called real translators Luz Dao Armin as paid investigators. Rule: worker chosen interviews on paid time in their language, right to say not today. The partners smiled, until we insisted on unannounced visits. Site 1, bleach and fear, windows sealed, a poster titled Family Above Fines. A woman whispered, "When your child is sick, reminders taste like salt." Site 2, training dorm equals barracks with cameras, smiling photos in halls, none in rooms. Site 3, overtime spiked with rain, not orders. Flooded roads, fewer buses. Commutes became punishment. The fix wasn't a timesheet. It was wheels. Our report was plain, 2 columns, what we saw / what must change plus who pays when change is late. Last line. This vendor fails our dignity threshold. We walk, Richard said. I disclose, I added. We absorb the hit, Elon said. Tell the street before it writes its own story. We published a brief with 5 receipts and 0 adjectives. The rival CEO called violations isolated, fines motivation, our exit naive. Motivation is a jacket, I told a mic. It should warm, not choke. No flame wars. We built instead. Auditors circle. Worker-nominated monitors, rotating languages, unannounced, paid for change, not promises. Onboarding bench test. Does your policy survive a bad day? Can a worker refuse and keep their job? Show 3 times you chose people over deadlines. Give ex-employee numbers we can call without you. We tested ourselves. Whisper inbox flagged a manager pressing temps to cover 2 roles. Because budgets are brittle. We called it theft. HR and legal moved. He left with a box, firm, not cruel. Markets twitched. The board watched like a storm. Elon sent the only email that mattered. Hold course. Publish updates. People first. We don't outsource our spine. 2 days later, a letter on cheap paper. We heard you. They took the cameras out today. Laughing is no longer a fine. They added a bus. We got home before the street turned dangerous. Keep going. Priya pinned it under evidence of relief. Around it, a glove that no longer tears, a schedule that matches a bus, a diaper receipt paid by a bridge fund, 1 signature, 0 shame. We filed a public update. Dates, masked names, actions taken, promised to publish in 30 days. Even if unflattering. Added to the dashboard. Kept promises, external commitments kept on time, in full without begging. The number wasn't perfect. It moved right. Direction measures courage. Whistleblower surfaced. Prosecutor called for documents. Process slow, justice slower. Speed isn't the only language that matters. A line worker visited Site 2 with his daughter, clutching our brief. You do what you say? We try. When we fail, we say it and try again. I can work with try, he said. His daughter pressed a blue star sticker into my hand. Kept it. We hardened soft things, softened hard ones. Legal wrote exit with dignity into vendor terms. Finance ring-fenced an emergency line so fixes didn't break people. Security posted a do not call the police one-pager. For crises where help is a sandwich, not a siren. An envelope arrived from the DACA factory. Worker signatures, a blue thread bracelet. Thank you for not using our pain as a press release. I tied it on and never took it off. A director asked, is this compassion eroding value? Richard clicked to 3 clean lines. Retention, rework, recall up. Regulatory risk down. He didn't plead. He presented. Hard to argue with a floor that refuses to crack. At the river bench, the plaque caught late light. Elon steepled his hands. Justice feels like a slow elevator. You push, you wait, you listen for the cable. It arrives, I said. If you don't walk away. He smiled. I don't. That night, Dow texted a night market photo, cheap bulbs, soup. A table labeled ask me how to fill this. Caption, they came. We stayed. The soup helped. Justice isn't a gavel. It's a table with more chairs each month. A report without adjectives. A metric that holds when markets sneeze. A van humming at 2 a.m. speaking fear's language. Keep your promises. Count them. Publish them. Repeat. Elon turned the thin silver ring to the sky. Freedom. Freedom isn't the absence of consequence, he said. It's the presence of choice. And choosing the slow thing that holds, I said. We stood. We went back to work. The next chapter would be softer. A door, a room, a life you can keep. Happiness didn't arrive like fireworks. It arrived like a room that finally fit the truth. By spring, the building breathed easier. Turnstiles blinked green without scolding. Grace bands became policy. Safe leave lived on one page. The Stars Fund turned into a quiet budget line. At the top of the dashboard sat one stubborn metric. Kept promises, correlating with retention, safety, cycle time, quality, and something rare, calm. We opened our 7th open care clinic on a rainy Saturday. A paper sign in 4 languages read, "We are open. You are safe." Patients arrived softly. A child watched a dinosaur take blood pressure first and passed. Sometimes happiness is a brave today sticker and a nurse who knows when to kneel. Inside, Priya Das added minutes returned to the report. Each scrap of wasted time removed. Dumb approvals, broken loops, late error messages, bent the curve right. The building exhaled. We turned a forgotten room into a listening lab. 2 chairs, 1 hour. No minutes unless requested. A cleaner asked for a stool, approved. A developer moved an error message, cursing stopped. A manager began. What did we keep this week? We posted wins under boring things that make Tuesday kind. No cameras. Just rooms that stop wasting people. Community taught scale. Dow pitched night market health. Pop-ups with soup and lights. 200 came, we answered. We returned with homework done. Luz drafted a glossary of dignity. Why are you late? What help would make this easier? Armin said. Chargers and lamps by time. We shipped both. Photos came back, small suns on shoulders. We didn't call ourselves good, we called ourselves in process. Updates read like weather. No adjectives, just barometers, appointments kept, crises diverted, returns on mercy. Inside Northbridge, the auditor's circle grew teeth. Worker nominated, paid, unannounced. Vendor onboarding got a bench test. Does your policy survive a bad day? Can a worker refuse and keep their job? Show us 3 times you chose people over deadlines. Give us ex-employees to call. The first supply chain report read like apology and blueprint. 3 red flags, 8 fixes, 40 paid in full names. We taped it in the break room. Old habits quieted. Elijah still tilted the scanner. Mara said names the right way. Sundays still meant pancakes. The plant refused to die. Elon held it up grinning. Still alive. He waited in clinic lines like everyone else. He wrote 3-sentence thank yous, what he saw, why it mattered, what changed. He took the stairs out of care, not theater. When asked for the secret, he said, attention is the scarcest resource. Spend it where it multiplies. Then he showed up and listened. My mother's name lived on a bench. For those who listen before they judge. People tucked proof beneath, bus transfers, rent receipts, a child's I'm okay. We left them. Data should never be so protected it stops being true. Our year-end kept promises card read like a recipe. Quiet room breaks, 30,000 plus. Overtime corrected, $2M plus. Schedules posted 2 weeks ahead, 18,000 plus. Incidents that would have become headlines, 0. We listed misses, fixed what we could, and left the rest in the light. Unreported failures ferment. At second shift, a dishwasher taught circuits. A nanny launched daycare around parents' real lives. A line cook tutored teens. On the wall. There is no such thing as unskilled. The city felt it. A bakery posted. Breaks are policy. A hotel made a phone call stall with a shelf and warm light. A warehouse replaced a no loitering with SIT. Breathe. Water's inside. We added family days. If the hospital, school, or grief calls, you go. No punishing forms. The line looked big for a month, small for a year. Retention answered every fear. Some nights we sat by the river with a small silver ring on the table. Freedom. Freedom isn't exit, he said. It's choosing your bonds on purpose. And staying, I said, when staying is braver. We kept Tuesdays for listening lab, Thursdays for field rounds. We taught leaders 3 sentences, you're right. You're safe. Here's what we do next. People tried to shrink our story, billionaire and poor girl. They missed the point. I didn't save him. I kept returning to hard rooms. He didn't rescue me. He held space when rumor wanted to collapse it. Power is measured in promises kept. On the blackout anniversary, we set out hand crank radios again. Rituals keep memory upright. Channel 9 played a ball game, a traffic update, a song older than shame. We ate cake from paper plates and argued about frosting because it matters. For markets, Richard Valen showed retention up, rework and recall down, regulatory risk down. He didn't defend. He presented. Hard to argue with a floor that refuses to crack. At year's end, we gathered in a room that smelled like coffee. Elijah's steady eyes. Mars cups labeled by hand. Priya's last chart. Nurse Amara tucking a star pin. For bravery. Into a sleeve. I kept it simple. We kept promises. When we failed, we said it and tried again. That's the work. That's the joy. Applause gathered like neighbors like mourning. Later at the bench, freedom caught the last sun. Elon set the old wallet beside my mother's plaque. We let the quiet belong to someone we love. If the night is pressed against your window, hear me. Happiness isn't at the end. It's in the middle, slow repair, patient audits, rooms that learn their weather, words you keep. I was invisible once. Now I keep doors. I open them. I teach hinges. If you find a wallet in the rain, you'll know what to do. Return it. Then keep returning yourself to the small work that holds. Wealth is real when shared. Love is strong when free. Justice becomes joy when quiet parts of a city can hear and say, yes, that, more of that. We're not finished. That's the happiest truth I know. Attention is the scarcest resource. Spend it where it multiplies.